another meeting. So to say, when you were greeting me, I was trying to round off. Good evening. Good evening, everyone, as well. All right. So, yep, we spoke about road mapping on Monday. We spoke about release yesterday, the interesting class. Everybody was excited, I believe. Um, Today we'll be speaking about incidents, and I'll see. I mentioned a bit about release, about incident yesterday. Today's class will probably not be very long. I know I used to see that on at the end of the day we have a very long class, but yeah, take my words for it. All right. So yeah, we spoke earlier about yesterday actually about release and things that could happen during release. Some of us are already product managers were sharing about our experiences, how I think one of us even said they almost got arrested, right? They almost slept in the cell. I think that's his exact word. He almost slept in the cell for during the release, right? So, which is why learning about incidents is very important. So, what exactly are incidents? Incidents ideally is that thing that you did not plan but disrupts your customer's plan. So I love to give this idea that imagine how I don't know, I feel it's an honor to actually build a product that people like Dangote would use. Imagine your app or your company has a payment app, and Dangote, when he wants to transfer money, I mean, when he wants to buy something in the supermarket, or he goes out with his family to a restaurant and he needs to pay, and he asks them, please, what's your account number? And they give him his account number. Your app is what he would open to actually send that money. I just imagine for a minute that someone that powerful, uh, I, arguably one of the most powerful persons in Africa, or maybe Dangote is small. Let's say Elon Musk, right? These people use products just the way you use it. They are not. Maybe they use some kind of product. Of course, we have specific banks. I mean, if they need to go into a bank, they need to do some verification. They need to do certain things. They have like I don't know if you've heard of it. Like there's the one-on-one building, like on the island where people like that go, according to what I heard, right? But nonetheless, they use apps like you. Some of them use Access Bank. They open the Access Bank app the way you use it. Now imagine that you are the product manager of, for example, let's say GT Bank, and Dangote uses GT Bank, and Dangote has, I mean, gone to a supermarket, let's say Cinemat, for those of us that at least know what Cinemat is. It's a big supermarket. People goes there, especially rich people, because you see fancy stuff that you would not find in regular supermarkets. So say they goes to Cinemat or decide to go to Oka. These are like top supermarket, I say supermarket malls that you can find literally anything at once in Lagos. So they say these guys go there, and I mean, it has happened to me before where I'd selected everything. My cart was very full. This was when I was still very young. I just started making money, young and getting it. I just started making my international money. So, when we collect, when salary enter, we'll go supermarket instead of who does market help. But now, as we grew, we understand that investment uh, works more than overspending. I mean, this is a digress. But just imagine that you go and Dangote had gone around the entire mall, picked items. Maybe you already have like 4 or 5 people already helping him to wheel some of the things that he bought. And he decided that, oh, I want to go and do shopping myself today. Right. And then they wheeled all those things that he has bought, got to the counter where he wanted to actually pay. And then he asked them for the account. And then, or let's just assume that he did not ask them for accounts. Let's assume he said, this is my card, that black cards that the wealthy people used to have. and he just gives them that black card and say, "Hey guys, uh, debit me, right? Remove the money." And they did the calculation and they say, "Oh, sir, the cost of all these things that you bought right now is 60 million." And then it was like, "Okay, take the card. And I mean, just remove the 60 million." And just as they put the card in, it declined. And then he looked at his app, he saw that he has money in the app. Then he said, "Oh, it's just a problem, right?" And he said, "Put it back." And then he put in the money again, the card again, and assume, right? It declines again. But now maybe with a different message. Let's say the first time it declined and said in switch error, right? That's what I experienced that day. I remember it was ShopRite in Lawrence. I had packed everything and I got there. I could see in my CUDA that there was money there. And, you know, I picked a lot of things. And, there were a lot of people on the queue. And he had gotten to me. The girl was even making jest. We were laughing together. And then I put the card and it said in switch error or something. I know some of us might have seen that error before. And they said, no, 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 try it again. And then she tried it again and it said insufficient balance. Right? I looked at my app. I saw that I had money. I showed the girl that I have money, and then she looked at me like this. That's how these people used to, that face of Lima. You know how money you pick all these things. You just want to disturb me, stress me. I was removing everything and counting. Imagine the kind, if I felt that kind of disgrace. I mean, I was not that rich, but imagine someone like Dangote using your product and getting to that point, and they experience the same thing. That is how weighty or heavy um what word to use now, incidents could be. Now imagine, make it worse. Imagine that Dangote does not have fintechs, for example, and they use commercial bank, and most commercial bank depends on NIBS, which is the one powering their transfer. So imagine that at least commercial banks in Nigeria, I mean, sorry, in case of, so I don't disregard foreign knowledge. So imagine that you are in charge of NIBS transfer or like that debit and credit of money on NIBS, and your service is actually down. So which means every single bank in Nigeria is down. So he tries his Access Bank. His Access Bank did not work, but he's a rich man. He probably has three other banks that he has money in, and then he tries to transfer in his GT Bank. Let's just assume. I mean, this case is unlikely, but let's assume that he tries to use GT Bank as well because NIBS is what is down. It means he can't pay. And then I was like, what's going on? And then he tries First Bank as well, and the same thing, insufficient balance. And he's looking at the three app, he's seeing money. And then that saucy Ibadan girl, if you're from Ibadan here, sorry, that saucy Ibadan girl looks at him and says, "I think they say you have money, right?" Imagine that experience for every of your customer, or at least 20% of your customer. Let's assume 20% are the ones that would actually use your platform when you have an incident. That is what happens a lot of time when an incident occurs. It's something is supposed to be working, but it stopped working for a reason. It's easier when you are building for consumer. Building for consumer means that you're building for the likes of myself and all of you here, like regular citizens. Building for business is a different ballgame entirely, right? Because every seconds counts in business. As a matter of fact, we have, again, this is like one of the things I said I would be discussing in class that is not in the curriculum. We have something we call um, it's there. We'll talk about it later. But we have something we call SLA. SLA is like you promising certain business. It's not common with us, like consumer apps. That's why some of us don't know about it. But SLA is you promising some of the businesses that you build product for that, hey guys, we call it service level agreement. You say, hey, if you guys have an issue, we promise you in less than 1 hour, we'll resolve it. If the issue is this kind of issue, we'll resolve it in less than 30 minutes. If the issue is this kind of issue, we'll resolve it in less than 2 minutes. I mean, you make that promise to customers, and then when that promise is not fulfilled, usually there's a penalty to it. So usually companies, like those companies, can actually sue you to court and for damages, or in most cases they can actually, before they sue you to court, usually, for example, we do it before things get out of hand. We offer them like a discount in their next subscription or something like that. I'm just giving you, in case both of some of you find yourself in companies that build for business, right? This is the best practice when such things happen. All right, so imagine that, like I said, for a moment, that is what an incident is. So you build a product, and then that product is working fine. All of a sudden, something broke, and your customer is unable to access the platform. And sometimes it might just be a tiny thing that does not disrupt the entire life. Other times is something that can be as crazy as Dangote trying to pay, and his bank account is telling him insufficient balance, right? So, as product managers, we need to know how to prepare for it. And that's why I'm actually teaching this specifically. All right. So we have something we call severity level. Severity level is like how bad is it? How bad is it? And you understand why this exists. And this is a global phenomenon generally, like regardless of which kind of company you're working with or which kind of product. It's a global term. It will always be the same. So you find P0, P1, P2, P3, and P4 in some cases. Or you find Sev 1, Sev 2, Sev 3, Sev 4, or you find critical, major, minor, or low. That's why I added all of them. So depending on where you find yourself, the most common one, like especially in Nigeria, is, oh, it's a critical problem, it's a minor problem, it's a major problem, right? But in developed organizations that use big platforms, especially when you use multiple platforms for your operations, right? You most likely find some of these terms like Sev 1, Sev 2, Sev 3, or P0, P1, P2, P3. I said it yesterday that when you see P0, P0 oftentimes means that um, the case is very, very serious. It's out of hand. In fact, in my company, when you highlight something as P0, it is assumed that it is a total outage, like your entire system is down, or an entire service in your system is down. That's what we call P0. And then P1 is something major, right? But it's not like the entire system is down. Maybe a core functionality or entire system is down for some users, for example. So major and critical are kind of like brothers and sisters. But it's just that for major, it doesn't affect all the user, but something is also down. Then for minor, usually it's like, oh, it's not very bad because it affects only a very small part of your user base, right? And then you have low. Low usually are cases that, in the case, is something that maybe you just finished doing a release and there's an edge case that you did not think about, and the customer just broke your system during that edge case. Or there's a there's a branding color. Maybe in your testing environment, your actual color is green. And then while you were in testing environment, you decided that, okay, let's try fuchsia blue, right? If there's a color like that, you decided that, okay, let's try fuchsia yellow, for example. And then you tried it out and then you forgot to change it and it's not in production, right? Those kind of things are not, they are not things that everybody would now call you to a meeting and say no. They are incidents because they are not expected to happen. It's not an unexpected scenario, right? It's not something that is supposed to be in production. However, it's not very critical. That's why we call them P3. So you can be in a place where they have as many P as possible. But the point is, everybody agrees that when you see P0, it is the most critical case ever. Now, so when an incident happens, what should I do? Again, the first thing you should ever do, usually when an incident happens, your engineers are not the first person to hear. In fact, when people need, let me use this chance to say this. If your developers need to do anything, nobody, and I repeat, nobody has any right including your CEO, to assign tasks directly to your developer without you in the picture. As a matter of fact, your CEO or whoever the person is, even CTO, is supposed to talk to you to prioritize something before your developer even gets to hear about it at all. So please, I'm initiating you guys to the community. Is, you know, when you say bro code, right? This is like PM code. Nobody, because if you allow it in your company and I get to work in that company, the CEO might feel like it's my own wahala that is much. So we often like to train each other, train each other to be ruthless when it comes to that. Like, be as ruthless as possible. Nobody, including the developer's manager, cannot assign tasks to them without reaching out to you first. And this is the number one rule of thumb. Always remember, nobody, if you are managing a team, nobody has the right to go and meet them directly. They meet you, and then you decide if it is something that they should do immediately or not. If you tell them that they're not doing it immediately, then they should take it up with the CEO or your line manager, right? Nobody has any right. Again, I'm repeating it, including the CTO of the company, has any right to assign tasks to anybody in your team, except, of course, you are in the loop, right? That is very, very necessary to set up so that you can understand every other thing we'll be teaching going forward. Now, because of that, because they can't assign things to them without you in the loop, it means that sometimes they have to come and meet you to tell you about a problem, and you need to understand it, even however technical it is. And that's why we're having this course. That your CTO does not feel like, oh, I didn't discuss with you because it's a technical conversation, right? I've seen product managers um, be in that shoe, and it is not a good shoe to be. I can tell you for free, it is not a good shoe to be, where your CTO tells you, oh, or maybe somebody in the technical team says, oh, Michael, we didn't involve you in the call because it was just all technical, and you see product managers say, oh, okay, no problem. No problem. As long as it doesn't affect the system, I'm good. No, you are not good. You are not cool. It's not cool. They should involve you. Again, I don't know why I'm intentionally saying this, because maybe I would not say it later. If it's very technical, they should involve you and explain as though they are explaining to a 2-year-old. It is your right as a product manager to be explained to. Because when you are explaining the product as well, you don't explain to them as people that are product related. You don't come to them and tell them, oh, I'm doing this because, it entails a lot of UX, user experience for the user. No, you don't tell them that they are terrible at user experience. So, however technical, whatever they want to discuss or they want to implement, they have to explain. You have to understand. And why is this very important? Because you own the product. If anything gets spoiled, they won't say, oh, they will ask you, why were you not involved? Right? So this is very essential when you are managing a product or working on a product as a product manager. All right. So again, what are the steps when an incident happens? Going back to what we're talking about. So the same principle. When an incident happens, the customer reach out to the customer support, usually through the support line, or they send an email and then the support receives it, and then the support checks which team is this affected, and they tell them, maybe the support already knows you. For me, my support guys already know me because we interact a lot. So when an email comes and my product comes up, they message me directly before they even create tickets, because we have support ticket as well, and aside from tax tickets. So before they open up a support ticket, they will reach out to me and say, Michael, do you think this is what's opening the ticket for, or is a user issue that we can just tell them what to do? And I'll say, okay, yeah, it's a user issue. Okay, open the ticket for it, right? So because of the relationship I have with support. But the point is, support will not just go to meet my team and say, hey, there's a bug. No, they come to me. And then I oftentimes will tell them if the bug is valid or not. So the first work you do when there is an incident, which means it was escalated to support, is you test it yourself. Don't be that product manager that raises up every single concern to your developers. Again, understand that your developers, your designers, they have work in the sprint. Remember, we spoke about that you plan your sprint, you assign tasks to people, hard story points. So they have the work they do normally. So when you tell them that there's an incident, you are adding an extra load to their work. Aside from adding an extra load to their work, when you drag them, before they even start working on it, they need to research what caused it, which means they are taking extra load, which would affect your sprint and, distract them from what they are supposed to be doing. Again, which is the sprint goal, if you remember us mentioning that conversation. So, back to the point, right? Very, very essential. You test yourself. The customer say, oh, I don't know, your app is not just logging in. For example, I had an issue today. We made a change and we made a simple change. It was a infrastructure change. Again, which brings me back to me saying that they have to inform you. Assuming they didn't inform me, I won't know that the change was going to happen. They just informed me and say, hey, Michael, we want to change. Again, I won't go very technical. And then when he told me, I was like, okay, no problem. What will be the impact? And he told me, oh, no, as long as nobody, they want to change, they've spoken about me about it, they've spoken to me about the change for 5 days. I had to make sure that the impact is actually minimal. And then they did the update today. I was on a call with one of the account managers trying to show him some things. And then all of a sudden, he was unable to take an action. And then I told him, okay, try taking this action on that VPN. And then he did it and it worked. And then I said, okay, no problem. He said, please, let's escalate this. And customers cannot be experiencing that. I said, hold on. Then I tried it as well myself. I had the same issue. And then tried it on that VPN. It worked. Then I called somebody in my team. Usually, the rule of thumb for me is at least I make sure that at least 3 or 4 people test it before I say, oh, okay, it's a problem. Especially if I don't see the problem initially. So I told somebody else in my team to test and it worked fine for them. And I said, oh, it worked fine. Then I reached out to the person. I said, see, it seems that this is weird. And it was like, oh, okay, let me check. What's your IP? And I sent my IP to him. And then he said, oh, you were blocked. Like, what's the name? Blocked you. You said it looks like you were connecting from a weird location. And why? Because those of us that were blocked, the account manager I was talking to was from Jordan. I am from Nigeria. Most of our traffic is in Saudi Arabia. So I won't mention the name for security reason, when our security system saw people before, it was anybody could access it. So the change they did was to ensure that we can track where people are actually joining our system from and block some locations for compliance reason. And then when both of us checked, when we logged in, it blocked us because it was a strange location from what the heavy traffic was. And when that happened, I said, okay, what if people are using VPN? What if they are using VPN for movie and because I hope you guys know that people use VPN for movie, right? You switch on your VPN to watch Prime. Maybe there's a video on Prime. This is another gist I'm giving you like this. Maybe you look at your Prime and you feel like, oh, the movies on my Prime is not solid, right? You can switch your VPN to UK or US or France, right? To see other movie variations that are available in those areas. But again, another story for another day. So let's assume a customer is doing something like that just to be able to access some resources on the cloud or on the internet that will probably not be available in their own country. And because of that, you block them, right? So I raised it up and the team was like, oh, sorry. And they looked at it. Why did I say this? How did I know exactly the problem? Why didn't I just go to my developers directly and say, hey, you guys have cooked the beans again? No, none of my developers got to know about it at all. We had a team called IO, which is like infrastructure team. I went to them directly. Why? Because again, I had context. You see why context help? And secondly, because I actually tested. So in balance, to balance the case, the first thing you do when your customer says everybody's jumping, your app is hot, test it first to be sure that it's truly hot or cold, right? That's the first step to do. Then the second step is something I like to teach people. Very interesting stuff, by the way, is developer console. right? So for example, this is my product, by the way. For example, I'm supposed to have been logged out right now, so I will just reload my this thing. I should find an error, I guess. Yes, there should be an error. Right. So as you can see here, there are certain errors, right? This is showing red. I hope you guys can see my screen. Okay. This is showing red. This is also showing red. So this is showing 404. I'll still teach you guys about error codes and how they work and how these affect us. But if I'm looking at this right now, I can see that, okay, there's an error. So let's assume I'm logged in, everything is cool. The reason why it's saying error is because I'm actually logged out. But then let's assume I'm logged in and everything is cool. It would most likely, right, show the same error. And then when it shows this error, I can look at it and say, okay, what is this API supposed to do? For example, this API, what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to be a security API. So why is this saying unauthorized if I'm logged in, right? Then, all those things, one thing, and all of that, right? So usually the first thing you do, let me go to another website. Let me use Flutterwave because it's not even secure now before, right? All right. So let's assume your customers are saying, for example, a customer is saying, hey guys, when I log into your website, how do you get to that place I was right now? You right click on your screen. If you are using Chrome, what's the name of this other browser? Chrome and any other browser except Safari, right? You inspect, and after inspecting, it will bring that developer console for you. If you're using Safari or you are on you're using a MacBook, you have to activate developer tool. If you have a MacBook, I can walk you through it. Maybe, or in a different class, I can join the class with a MacBook and show you how it works. All right. Ideally, the developer consoles is, I'm sorry, I'll go back to the material, but for now, let me just walk you guys through. The developer console is comprising of multiple layers. I'm zooming so that we can see everything. The ones that concern you, there's so many things going on here. The one that concerns you usually is not the element. You have nothing to do with it. It's console. This is one. It concerns you a lot because this console tells you when something is bad or when something is wrong. For example, you can see that there's a problem here. Intercom ID in the code snippet has not been set. So which means that Flutterwave is tracking my activity. And I can also see that they are also using Google Analytics, right? They are sending my analytics to their Google Analytics. But anyway, my activities on their website, which again, they didn't tell me they were going to do. But we're in Nigeria, compliance, right? So Google Console basically tells you secret. What is happening exactly? What's the website you are going to? What are they really stealing from the browser? You are seeing all of this. Yours might not be as clean as this because I'm using let me remove it so that you see how it's supposed to be. I'm using a plugin that is making it look so clean, right? Okay, let me just remove from Chrome. Okay, so your own will look like this, basically. As you can see, it's not showing all those plenty things again. It's showing those plenty things because I'm using the plugin that helps me to see what is going on in the browser, right? Most browsers don't have the capability to see all those SDK actions, right? But in most cases, this also is enough to actually, without the plugin, is enough to let you know that there's a problem going on. For example, this is saying that Google Map JavaScript API has been loaded directly without loading a sync. This results in blah. So which means that Flutterwave is sort of trying to get some of my data directly from Google Map. Probably the exact location I am for compliance reason. I'm not sure. You'll be able to see. So if this fails, you also see it here that it fails. Now, let's say hypothetically that something is wrong with in the front end. For example, if I try to log in, it sets an OTP. As you can see here, there's a problem. It's saying bad request. So you can see that the console actually gives you a lot of context, so to say. This is one of the advantages of control. It tells you where the problem is or what the problem is. We also have network. Network is like the best party of all party, right? It has all the requests that is sent to the backend in the log, all the requests sent to the server in where you are going through. So, for example, let's say your customer says, "Oh, when I try to log in, it's not logging in." You can easily see here that this is failing, but there is a need. Let me look for the login endpoint. If you don't want to be cluttered with plenty things like blob file, there's a lot of things that I can't probably teach you right now, but you can always clean it up by saying fetch xhr, which only shows like actual requests, and then you can look for the login request. So this is the login request, which shows that, oh, it was successful, you tried to log in, and blah 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 blah. See my password in the browser. Flutterwave is a very stupid company. Very stupid company. Very extremely stupid company. Why is my password in the browser, for God's sake? Anyway, the point is you'll be able to see. Hi. If it fails, you see error. For example, with the error response, OTP, blah blah blah, and then you can take this error response and take it to your what do you call it now? Your developers and say, hey guys, when we try to log in, there's an error on the browser. I don't know what the error is, so please can you kindly check, right? Again, because Flutterwave system is a very terrible system. Again, I say it with full chest, right? This error is not supposed to be here at all, because there's no error really. It's just waiting for OTP. So I don't know what this error is doing here, but again, terrible system. If you do the same thing with Paystack, you probably not see all this rubbish that is happening here. But yeah, great company, but terrible code and rubbish stuff. All right, one other thing you could do, for example, is you could also come here. There's something we call R. I don't till now I still don't know the necessary. I necessarily don't know the meaning of R. Let me check. HTTP archive, I think. Right? Till now, I don't know the meaning anyway. But another thing you could do is you can just click on this download button and download the file. If you download the file and give it to your customer, to your developers, it preserves exactly all of these logs, and your developers in their local environment can actually import it. As you can see, what I downloaded, import it and see exactly what you were seeing when you tested. Why is this very important? I know some of us probably have heard the joke that you worked on my local, you worked on my hand, you did not work on your own hand, right? This is very important because then your developers can be able to recreate the exact problem that happened on your hand with the R log. So this is one of the first steps, or one of the most important steps in debugging, especially when it's a web app. If it's a mobile app, it's a bit more hard. It's harder, right? But at least for web app, most B2B and everybody has a web app in most cases now. So if it's a web app, this is one of the best ways to actually see it. So you can see in the log, these guys, if you go to the header, sorry, I said that if without clicking on it, you can see 200. I'll still explain some of these status, how you know which one is failed and which one is not failed. But you see all these 200, any two, something is success. 3 or something can also be success depending on the scenario. And then you have anything 400 and 500 is serious problem. So again, you can tell them that, okay, I can see that there's a problem with this particular endpoint. For example, this URL, request URL is what we call an endpoint. So you tell them this particular endpoint. So it helps them to be able to find the problem faster when you debug. Not just telling them, oh, customer is not able to log in. What happened? Because they might try to log in and they're able to log in, right? This is why we actually try to recreate the exact scenario before we go and meet our developers and others to report an incident. All right, so I've showed you guys console, I've showed you guys network, application. I'm sure there's a lot that is not supposed to be there. All right, so the browser saves a lot of your information when you interact with it. So in most cases, or in some cases, companies use those information so that they don't have to go. They leverage on that so that they don't have to be going to the DB every time. Why is this very important? For speed purpose, right? If every time that you're on your website, your browser has to your system has to go to your database to collect data every now and then, it will be hard because it means that your system will be refreshing almost every minute. So because of that, they use something we call local storage, which means that the website loads once and then keep the record of the data it collects at first until you actually take another action, like that involves like button clicks, right? Things like that goes back to the DB to take new data, right? But if you don't need to go to the DB to take new data, it just loads the initial data and keeps it in local storage. Now, if you check here now, in the storage here, you can see most of, hi. Anyway, you can see all their data, right? If these people were to go to courts now, the kind of fine they will collect. Anyway, so you can see all those data, right? You can see all those data. Also in the more frequent than other, there might also be other data, other things that is also happening. For example, there might be requests that is running, JavaScript might be running some requests underneath. For example, you might say, let me give a more common example. Like when you go to a page that has a table, right, that you have to scroll down for example, your Instagram, right? When you go to your Instagram, you don't have to reload to actually see new fields. You just have to scroll up, and you start seeing new things. So what is happening is every time you scroll up, there's a loading that is happening underneath. JavaScript is running something underneath to actually pull the data, right? Some of those requests or some of those data can be stored also here in the browser. And if there's an error, you can actually use that data that it has been stored for your debugging as well. But in most cases, you don't have any work to do in the application. Your best friend as a developer is in the network and the console. You always find your errors there, and then you can always share it. And sometimes, like I said, just like this Momo people, right? Your errors will tell you that there's no problem. For example, this is telling us error, and then it's still telling us that there's no problem because the message is saying an OTP is required for authentication. So, which means if you put an OTP, then the error disappears. So, in that scenario, you can always call your customer and say, oh, sorry, it's not an error. Input your OTP, it will work. We improve the UI. Maybe in their own case, maybe they don't have the UI to input the OTP is not very intuitive, right? So the customer does not know that they have to input the OTP. So when you check, you realize that, oh, the customer is not inputting the OTP. That's why. So you call them and say, okay, yeah, we'll improve the UI, but for now, when you get to that particular stage, what you need to do is input the OTP. That way, you don't need to go and disturb your developers, and they trust you more. The developers trust you more with your own job as a product manager. So our job is not just to tell them, like I said earlier when we started, that our job is not just to back orders. Our job is also to get involved, right? To make sure that the work is easy for every other person that we're working with. So yeah, so these are some of the, like I said, browser tool, one of the most amazing tools that a developer, a product manager should learn how to use, right? And I already also explained what the R export is. Also, once you now have it, you create a ticket, put all those information into it. You need to also classify it. How serious is this? I already explained what classification is for you guys. How serious is this? How bad is it? Is it a PO? Is it a P1? Is it a P2 incident? Like, is it something that we should work on right now? And all of that. Then you need to also write environment. Usually, incidents don't happen um, on our testing environment, but even in production, there are multiple environments. For example, OP has a web app. They have a Android app. They have a iOS app. A bug can be happening on Android and not be happening on iOS. So you need to know where exactly this problem is happening, right? So if it is iOS customers that are complaining, you want to specify so that it helps your developers to know what to do, right? Also, you give what does a bug report looks like. Number one, there is a summary, one sentence saying what the problem is, right? Not one long epistle. Just say, hey, user unable to log in. That's a summary, right? And then environment, where's the user experiencing that? Is it on an iPhone? Is it on the web? And then reproduction step, right? What did you do that gets you to that problem? Okay, user opens their browser, searches for www.mywebsite.com, and then when they get there, they get to the login page. User inputs their email, user inputs their password, and user clicks login. For example, those are reproduction steps. And then another thing that should be in a bug report or an incident report is expected versus actual results. So after putting that, you now put expected result is user is able to log in and see their dashboard. Actual results, error, 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 help me, help me, help me. It's not working, right? You put that as actual results. And then evidence, usually we do screenshots and sometimes do video recording, depending on the severity or on the uniqueness of the scenario, right? And then severity and impact. So you want to also add there that, oh, this is a P1 incident and is affecting X customer, Y customer, or maybe half of our customer. You want to put it there so that they know how serious it is. All right. So I'm saying that we have a 5 minute rule. When an incident is reported, everything that I just said right now, you have to do it in less than 5 minutes. At least position your mind to do it in less than 5 minutes. Because if it's a PO, if it's a P0 event, you need to actually call a war room immediately. I spoke about it yesterday, right? If it's a P0 event, you need to call a war room like literally immediately. And what is a war room? A war room is a meeting that starts small. You will give the explanation. A meeting that starts small with people smiling, but hence with people losing their jobs sometimes, right? So, war room is a place where you call people that are worked on that particular part before. If there's any release that have been done, you bring people that did the release, and then start talking about the problem. Everybody start looking at solution. I'll tell you what the steps. What happens in the war room? And then everybody start bringing ideas. Oh, this could be it, this could be it, and sometimes you start making those changes as you're talking about it, especially if it's a PO incident and your company already promised the other businesses that, hey, we'll give you one hour, because again, every incident is your company's 1 way away, 1 hour or 2 hours away from huge lawsuits, right? Huge lawsuits. Like I said, just imagine, Dangote is unable to transact. He wants to send money for one huge deal, and he's unable to send money for the huge deal, and he lost millions of dollars or trillions of dollars, or millions. Let's say millions. Dangote is not that rich. Say millions of dollars on that particular deal because of your app. Trust me, you will pay fine, like serious fine. You are going to court, right? So, which is why it's very important. I have a 5 minute rule. Once I hear about incident, in fact, usually incident, if it's not support people that I know, once the incident ticket is created and they assign my product to it, I get notified immediately. Immediately I get notified before I even go to browser to go and be inspecting and doing all those things. I'm already thinking about what could be the problem. If I have a way around it, I'm already trying to log in and seeing how to. I already have steps in my head. So that first 5-10 minutes that you hear that there's an incident, your actions should ensure that you validate that this incident is correct, and then arrange it in severity. Do I need to call war room or not? And then the way war room work, really, but before we go there, like I said, escalation, decision tree. The first thing, if it's a user error, and you just try to check it yourself and try to reproduce it. But if you cannot reproduce it, usually that's HAR file that I say you should download would really help your developers. Or you can just screenshot and then take it in. If it's a P3 or P2 event, P2 incident, it can wait. P0, P1 cannot wait. In some company, P2 also cannot wait. So depending on what your company do. But in all companies in the world that I have worked and my friends have worked, right? My friends are product managers. If they tell you when we are ranting about our life, because sometimes even my friends that are in the same company, sometimes we just call each other to rant, right? So when we are ranting about life like that, right? Usually they're always talking about it. P0 and P1 in every company is crazy. I have a group with my friends where sometimes some of them will just drop message and say, guys, pray for me. I don't know what is going on. Just pray for me. Blah, blah, blah. They will pray together, you know. You guys should have people like that in your circle. It helps. Sometimes when incidents happen, you don't just know how it is resolved because probably some people are praying for you, right? So have those kind of friends in your circle. And sometimes that your friend have faced something like that before, and you just tell them, hey guys, I don't even know what is going on. And sometimes, lucky for us, sometimes when we are trying to debug and I say, guys, what's going on? Is there any downtime? Is anybody announcing any downtime? And they say, no, there's no downtime anywhere. Then you know that is your problem. Sometimes they come to the group and gist each other. Oh, guys, X is down. WhatsApp is down. Before you go and start debugging something on your end. So even before customers start reporting, we are able to proactively send emails out and say, hey, one of our provider is down and you might experience certain issues for a few minutes or a few hours, right? So this is why you should keep a community of product managers. Don't work in silos. It's not good, right? Have colleagues that you can always, and if you have some of you that know each other, you can create a group where you actually align, right? Join communities. I used to tell people that I train, join community. There's people in product. I've not attended any physical meeting before, but I've made a lot of friends from there. There's a lot of communities out there, right? Join those communities of product managers because usually it's either you are getting, some of you ask me, how do you get jobs? Sometimes like that, you get jobs too. People recommend you. Recently, somebody reached out to me for a gig, right? I recommended somebody else that I know, right? Because the pay was not very good. At the same time, I have a lot of things going on right now. Which that's how people get opportunities. So again, I digressed a bit to let you know that this actually works a lot. All right, I did a bit of explanation on how some of these top companies actually do it. I did a bit of research to help you guys so that you don't have to do research. All right, so War Room. I've explained War Room for you. It's a coordinated real-time incident response. So usually, who initiates a War Room? There's usually somebody called an incident commander, right? In an ideal organization. This incident commander is usually somebody in the support team, right? When the incident gets open, they start counting, right? So I remember when I said we have SLAs, right? SLAs meaning your service level agreement that you have with this company. So let's assume you have a company. Let's assume Pepsi is my customer. Now I have an SLA with Pepsi that if anything happens, we'll resolve it in um, 1 day, right? 24 hours. And then Pepsi reported an incident. Before Pepsi reported an incident, companies would have workflow that we have promised Pepsi 1 hour. It means that we should be able to do it in 12 hours. 1 day rather. We should be able to do it in 12 hours. So now they will now put reminders in 2 hours and say 4 hours. So we remind you after 2 hours, check up on the person that is trying to resolve the problem. What's going on? After 4 hours, they check up on the person and say, what's going on? Then after 6 hours, which is half of the entire hour, there's an escalation. Escalation means that it's not as if we have breached the OLE or SLA yet. Sorry, I might use the term interchangeably. So just understand that it's a mistake. OLA is like SLA, but used for employees. OLA is operational level agreements. It's like an agreement I, as an employee of my company, have with my company to deliver. For example, I'm promising my company that I'll work 8 hours a day. If I work less than that, my company can arrest me, right? Something like that. So, but when I say OLE, in case I mistakenly say OLE, please understand that in this context, we are talking about SLA. All right. So, like I said, if I sign SLA with Pepsi as my customer, that's hey, Pepsi, don't worry. If you use our platform, We promise you, if any issue happen in less than 24 hours, we'll resolve it, right? And then people say, okay, what happens if you don't resolve it in less than 24 hours? Hold us accountable. Hold us accountable could mean that close up our company by fining us millions of dollars. Whatever happens, we take responsibility for it. That's what it means. Now, the company, to ensure that they don't run at loss, breaks it down into two and say 12 hours, we have to make sure that this work. Now, in 12 hours, they now break it down further and say we put reminder at touch points. And the first 2 hours, we remind the person working on it or check up on the person, what's going on? Do you need help? Do you need support? Another 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. And then after that 2 hours, you have escalation, right? Escalation could be at the 6 hour or the 8 hours. Escalation means that they bring people that are bigger than that person, like their engineering manager, the senior, clinical senior, until the CTO is in the call. So everybody will keep adding people, adding people, adding people, adding people. In fact, sometimes until the CEO is on the call, so you find a resolution. So this is how war rooms ideally work. So now the person that actually is the incident commander is this person that is actually in charge of that reminders and escalation. Usually we set automations, but somebody is also keeping track of it. That means that they are in the automation workflow that you've created to send reminders, to send escalations. There's a they are CC'd in it. So when they see it, they take physical action, right? But in most companies, there's no role for incident commander. This role rests on the product manager, which means that you are the one that will initiate the call. Everybody come on the call. Now, when you initiate the call, what exactly is your role? Your role is to write a status update immediately. Send an email through support to all your customers that are affected. You might experience, some of you might have received emails like this before. Hi, everybody, we love you, blah, blah, blah. You might experience some service disruption. We're working on it to be resolved very soon. Immediately. Don't wait till you know the reason. Send the first email. After sending the email, then keep them updated, right? Don't wait for the customer to message you and say, okay, how far now? Right, how far now? Keep them updated. Usually, we advise every hour, or depending on the severity of the issue, maybe even faster, like earlier, 30 minutes. Update them. For example, if it's money matter, you have to update the customers as early as possible. And your top customers, you don't update them via email. You call them. Customers as big as Pepsi, as Dangote, right? You don't send email and say, we sent you email now. You call your relationship managers in those companies to tell them, hey, there's something going on. Maybe you guys can move your traffic to a different bank temporarily, and then when we're back, we'll move it back, right? Stuff like that. Just ensure that they are involved. I'm taking time to explain this because incidents usually help. Is one of the reasons why product managers lose our job. Product managers really lose their jobs, right? I know compared to software engineers, you most likely not see a lot of product managers crying that they lost their job, except the company actually went, or you're just a trash, right? You're not a product manager good enough, or the company is just trash as well. The company is terrible, or they are toxic environments. But one of the things that makes us lose our job is when incidents are piling up and we don't manage it well. All right. So again, as I said, so you own that. Make sure that you give updates. Make sure that everybody understands what's going in. And then during that call, they make decisions. Say, oh, I think we have a solution. We need to release this now. No, you are the one that determines if they release it or not, which means in that same call, you are acting as a tester. You bring in your QA tester, is testing. You are testing. Everybody on the call is testing. But even though everybody on the call is testing, you need to be sure they are waiting for you to approve that we should go live. So if you approve that the solution is pushed, like I said, the same explanation I explained about release yesterday, your rollback strategy, having everything, plans and everything, right? If the incident happened after a release, the first instinct is roll back the changes that you've done. That's the first instinct. But sometimes stand on your ground that it is not the release. If you know that it is not the release, right? So but the first instinct is rollback. Usually, managers and top level would ask you, did you release anything recently? And if you say, yes, we released, the next thing they tell you is roll back the changes, right? But sometimes it might not be the changes, right? Which is why I said, for incidents, make sure that you make all your research. If the problem is with payment, check with your payment provider. Are they okay? There's something called status page, which helps us to actually know things as well. So let me go to Paystack status page, for example. I won't trust Flutterwave status page, but Paystack status page will tell you the truth, right? As you can see, Paystack Nigeria, you guys can see my screen, right? Paystack Nigeria says, guys, we have incidents. As you can see, they have a very serious incident that was resolved after 9 times. So they had problem with their card transactions and Paystack Titan. So for almost 9 hours, right? Almost 2 hours, sorry, resolved after two hours. This card transaction problem was on ground for 9 days. Do you know what 9 days is? Like they were trying to resolve the problem for 9 days. So imagine that you are using Paystack API for card remittance. It means that your own system too will be down for 9 days. So which means instead of us saying that, and now imagine that you release, immediately after you release, that's when the problem happened. You would have rolled back before realizing that it's your partner that is actually at fault. So while your team is discussing on the call, you are doing these validations as a product manager. So you are checking status page. Almost every company has their own status page. I think my company also has. Yes, I think. Yeah, my company has. All right, so almost every company has a status page that shows, oh, there's a problem, we're working on it, right? And all of that, right? So literally, status pages help you as product managers, right? Your regular customers don't even know that there's something called status page. But it helps you as a product manager to know if the problem is coming from your side or from other sides, right? Then your engineers, you already know what they'll be doing on the call. Then support, always, again, don't communicate to customers directly because you need somebody that would be able to put attention on the chat so that they can answer if there's a back-to-back conversation. So you communicate to customer support and customer support will handle the communication. You just tell them that we're working on this. They handle the keeping the customer calm and all of that. Again, except your top customers. Your top customers, if you already have relationship with them, oh, this reminds me. I had a customer who was a loan app, right? They are a fintech, but they give loan. And our service was down for like 30 minutes. They were not the top customer, but this man was he was always particular about having conversation with me. He would rather call me directly on my, like, he's in Saudi Arabia, but he would rather call me directly on my normal Nigerian number than message support that something is wrong. So when that issue happened and I know that it affected them, the first person I called, as I was messaging my team, as I was initiating the call for the war room, I was also calling him. Hello, sir, we have an issue. Oh, thank you very much. So what should we do before then? And I advised him, okay, so I think what you can do is also send a message to your customers and all that. And just before we could even blink, it was already resolved. And I called him back. Till today, if anything happens, you will say, where is Michael? For Michael not to know, then there's a problem. So do you understand that level of respect? Give it to your customers, especially top customers. Those ones that you know that they can't do without you. Not like they can't do without me, but do you understand what I'm saying? Those that they already respect you, they already honor you to that point. Also honor them back so that you can keep them, right? These are customers that if you work in regions that is relationship, for example, in Nigeria, if you're working in banks in Nigeria, you can't just enter a bank and become a vendor immediately. It doesn't work that way. To be a vendor of a bank, you have to have relationship. You can't just go and apply and you approve it, except of course by the grace of God. So in that kind of scenario, you need to know people, right? People like Philandro Toye, basically all he does is consultancy. So he speaks with almost every banks in Nigeria. This guy consults, right? So if you have a relationship with Fernando Toye, then you have access to banks, people like that. So if you have Fernando Toye as your customer, then you automatically sort of have every single bank, commercial bank in Nigeria as your customer. Because if you need them, all you have to do is just make Fernando Toye happy and then you can get access to them, right? So understand that relationship is key as a product manager. All right. So after an incident, what should I do? You write an incident summary. What happened? Who helped? Blah, 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 blah. And then the timeline. How long did it take? As you can see, when I showed you Paystack, you could see it clearly. 9 days. Paystack did not say, a whole Paystack. We should not be telling people that we had downtime for 9 days. No. It's not a time to be bragado. If it's 150 days, put it there. 100 is accountability, right? Timeline. What's the root cause? What caused it? Right? What caused the problem? What is the secondary issue? What went well during the old incident challenge? What went well? This is very good. It's a time for you to actually give shout out to some people that actually helped you do it well, right? Talk about the brilliant work that your developers do and all that. This documentation help with their promotion and all that. And if you know that you do it when you have incident, they will show up for you. Basically, they will show up for you. What went wrong? For example, at the same time, if developers are the one that went wrong, if your system is what went wrong, if your DB is what just crashed while you were trying to fix things, make sure that you put everything. Action item. What are the things that you wrote down that we need to do so that we'll not be in this same situation again in the future, right? Those things needs to be documented properly after every incident, which brings me to what we call RCA and RFO. These are documents that we write as product managers. RCA is root cause analysis. We don't write root cause analysis. The developers do it because we are not the one investigating. Developers are the one investigating incident. For you to have called a war room, it means that you could not find it. So they write a document to tell us the root cause analysis. And one of the things we do is we enforce it that product manager, you have to ask the question. We call the rule 5 whys. You guys are taking a lot from me. You call the rule 5 why, right? We call it 5 whys. 5 why techniques or something. Yes, 5 why techniques for RCA. I know I will not forget it. So the idea of the 5 why techniques is ask yourself why until the 5th time. So, for example, if you say, okay, why did our system crash? Or our system crashed because our DB was big. Then you ask again, why was our DB big? Or our DB big is because our customer base is now growing. And, then you now ask your question, why didn't we prepare for it? Right? Okay, we didn't prepare for it because it was a sudden growth. Oh, why was there a sudden growth? Right? So you keep asking why, until you get to the main root cause. Right? So your when they're writing their RCA, they have to give you that all those information until they get to the main root cause so that you know all the underlying factors that contributed as well. Now, when they give you that, you as a product manager will now write something we call RFO. We call it RFO because it is reason for outage. So you are writing a documentation to help your customer understand why this happened, right? So again, root cause analysis by your development team, they can write anything they like because it is not shared to the customer. It's internal. So they can put there that, Oracle was down, Biliki was the one that caused everything. He was innocent. Innocent went to deploy when he was not supposed to deploy. You can write everything there. Now, you as a product manager will now take it. You will not diplomatically write that thing back again in a way that the customer will understand and the customer will not also get your trade secret or your company secret. So, in a nutshell, in the RC, what we write in an RFO, what we write in an RFO is what happened, right? A brief explanation of what exactly happened, what we did to resolve it, right? What we did to resolve it, and what are the next actions to ensure that it will not happen again, right? So sometimes we lie, right? Not lie is diplomacy. It's diplomacy. It's not lie. Sometimes for example, when the incident, there was this incident that we spoke about yesterday that affected all the AI. All the AI system? Can somebody remind me? There was an incident. I think I will see it in chat. Somebody Cloudflare. When Cloudflare issue happened, right? When we realized we could not have told our customer that, oh, hi guys, we're sorry. The problem that affected us is actually because of Cloudflare. No, that's unprofessional. You don't ever mention a name of another company in your RFO. As bad as the company would be, we don't do that because we don't want them to do that as well. So what we do is we can talk about it. So we had one of our third party provider that went down, blah blah blah. You'd be as And then you don't go there and say, oh, one of our engineers deployed the wrong thing to production. Trust me, your customer is gone, right? But there are better way you could handle it as well. So you need to learn corporate communication, which means that you have to learn diplomacy. How do I present this problem without lying, at the same time um, without making it such that we feel like a villain, right? So again, you are empathetic, but sometimes you have customers that are dialing down and say, Baba, all this in our diplomacy, you have to tell me what exactly went wrong. And then in that case, you have companies say come out. In that case, in most cases, companies used to find scapegoats. So usually they will say, okay, there was somebody in our team that actually mistakenly did this, but we have taken action. The person has been sacked, immediate, blah 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 blah. They even give the person name in case they want to verify, right? But again, in this kind of scenario is like extreme scenario where you have a business that you cannot just lose, right? And that person is asking for in-depth analysis or something like that, right? And that's why we don't lie, because if you already lie, then you cannot tell the truth again. You can't. There's no way to follow up on your lie. So you say the truth, but as much as possible, be compliant, be no, not compliant, be diplomatic, right, with it. So this is ideally what exactly we do in our RFO. This is what we write in our RFO. I hope this makes a lot of sense. Let me check. Adiola asks, what plugin is that? What's the name again? I just uninstalled it. AdServe. Yes, it's called AdServe.
Is it Chrome extension or like
Yes,
it's
it's a
okay?
Chrome extension.
Okay.
AdServe. Yeah, I use it a lot when I need to see what is happening on the browser side, the browser basically. Any other question? Let me stop recording because all of you watching recording, I don't want you to have questions.